Hello everyone. The goal of Summative Assessment is to measure or evaluate learning that has taken place at the end of a unit of instruction. This is different from the other major type or formative assessments that are done throughout the unit of instruction and that help guide any adjustments needed for the class or program. We'll cover formative assessments in our next module, but with summative assessments, one of the most important discussions is around what are the specific assessment instruments that are being used. Remember that in the context of curriculum design, we began with the foundation of being learner-centered, along with the concepts of alignment and curriculum sequencing. Developing the right assessments are linked to outcomes. That is, when we construct the outcomes, it is through the assessments that we can determine whether or not we have met those outcomes. With summative assessments, they are the final proof, if you will, that gives you feedback. Now, whether the summative assessment occurs at the course or at the curriculum or program level, there are some questions we want to ask when determining how we create the instrument. The first asks if the assessment we are creating is already in existence. Why create a new assessment instrument when one is already available? Take the case of a degree program and determining what summative assessments are used. To use our program, the EDD, at the end of all the coursework, there is a summative assessment called the comprehensive exam. The comprehensive exam is a writing assignment done over the course of a quarter. This must be completed and passed before a student moves on to the dissertation phase of the program. Most doctoral programs have some sort of comprehensive assessment experience at the end of the coursework phase, and ours is no different. Now, beyond whether an existing assessment exists, there are some other questions that need to be considered. The text highlights several of them, including what outcome is this seeking, or what is the outcome or outcomes that this assessment is linked to? What are the things that the learners must know in order to take the assessment in the first place? This is a very important question because it helps curriculum designers think about what has been learned up to that point. Related to this is the question of what is the best type of summative assessment instrument that should be used in this case. Again, to use an example from this program, many summative assessments are demonstrated in writing. And what is important from a curriculum design perspective is to consider why writing in the first place. Part of the reason that in doctoral study a major part is the research and writing is needed for the dissertation. Having good writing and research skills, as demonstrated by the assignments, is great preparation for the dissertation experience. A final question is around what to make of the assessment results. Once a summative assessment is completed, it's good to know that outcomes are achieved, but the data should also reveal any trends or issues brought up with the design of the class or the program. So what improvements can be made? What curricular changes or even program changes needs to be instituted the next time the course or program is offered? This is one of the most important questions to ask in summative assessments. Our next module will have us take a look at the other major type of assessment category, formative assessments. As a matter of introducing you to this one type of formative assessment, you'll see that immediately after this discussion thread is a discussion that is titled Your Feedback Requested. Since we're halfway through our course, I want to give you an opportunity to share what is and maybe what isn't working for you in the course. Do you have a suggestion or ideas that you want to discuss? I know that I have some ideas for the second half of the course which I'll share next week, but please do take the time to answer a short survey. This formative assessment, which will help me make any adjustments to our time together. I value your input, and the survey is anonymous. As always, attend to our discussion as we wrap up this module through the weekend, and I'll see you online.